Hello, Merry Meet. So, I have been on vacation at my mother's place. That's why I haven't uploaded any videos for the last few weeks. So I went to my mother's place for 3 weeks. Actually, it was originally intended to be 2 weeks, but then my husband got sick. Nothing serious, just one of those bugs that go around. And he just wanted to be alone so he asked if I could stay another week. And so I went to my mother's for 3 weeks. I had a really good time. So we spent some time camping and we visited the capital because she lives not that far from it for shopping, and it was a nice time. Anyway, I read some books there, so it's time to do some reviews. And the one I wanted to start with is this one. It's called The Wheel of the Wiccan Year by Gail Duff. I just basically picked this book up at random because I saw it on eBay dirt cheap. It's secondhand. And I really like, I really think that following the Sabbats is a great way to get more connected to your spirituality as a pagan. So I've been interested in reading more books about it, so I picked this one up and I love it. This is great. I think that I will have to modify my list of books I recommend for new neo-pagans and Wiccans to include this book because it's awesome. So yeah, what I really like about this is that it sort of has a theme for each Sabbath, of course, but it has a red thread that runs through all of it, with the idea that at Samhain you basically was it? Yeah, I think it's Samhain. You plant seeds in dirt, or basically you plan out what seeds you want to plant. Then you plant them at Yule and you watch them grow and then eventually harvest them. And we're not talking about necessarily physical seeds here. We are talking about ideas for what you want to do the following year. And it becomes a great way of planning the year in a way that works a lot better, I think, than these New Year's resolutions, things that I will get more exercise and I will call my mother more and all of those things, which tend to just vanish as soon as we are 2 weeks into January. Here it's more that you plan out a small handful of goals for the year and you work on them in tune with the Sabbats, and that is an awesome idea. And you have a lot of activities here. Basically, each chapter, let me just find the start of a chapter. Blah, 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 blah. Yes, here we have. For example, the Samhain chapter. It starts with a picture showing the idea of the festival. And it talks a little bit about its meaning and what aspect the goddess and god is in. And one thing I think is interesting here is that this doesn't really view the idea of the goddess in a threefold way, but rather in a fourfold way, and the same with the god. And I think this is a really, really interesting way to look at it. Because, and she actually has a section in here discussing it. And it's actually great, and especially for modern women. Because I remember with my grandmother, she was 58 years old when I was born. Everybody in my family has had children late. And all the time I remember her, she was an old woman. She died when I was... she died a few weeks before I turned 19. Anyway, she was an old woman. So then in earlier times, and not that far from now, a threefold aspect of a woman's life fit very well. You had a woman as a child and a young girl, a maiden. And then she was a mother. And as soon as she was done with the mother stage, she was old, she was a crown. However, because older women has become more active. You have a middle period there. So you have a young woman and a girl, basically the maiden. Then you have the mother stage. But then you also have the stage between the children having grown up and left the nest and a woman really becoming old. Basically a woman in her late 40s and 50s and 60s and well into her 70s today is usually still young and fairly vital and can enjoy her life and live it to the fullest. I mean, my mother is now 66 and she isn't old. She isn't an old woman. And therefore you have a stage there between mother and crown. And I really like that this book acknowledges that in the aspects of the gods. So that's a really interesting way of looking at it, that we might have to change that idea. Of course, the idea of a triple goddess fits very well with the phases of the moon, but still this is a good way of looking at it. So you have that, and then you have various forms of folk customs. It discusses some folk customs that are associated with that time of year. And then you have things to do, which are various forms of rituals and spiritual things that you can do with that Sabbath. And then at the end, you have it all sewn together as one long ritual that includes the various things that you can do. Now, and that can get quite long. But yes, and the various things that you can do are actually really, really nice. There's various things, and you can do them on your own as well. You don't have to use them as one ritual. And some of the things in here, I am definitely going to try and are out of season as well. You have one, I think it's for Imbolc. Is it Imbolc? I think it's Imbolc, where you are supposed to sweep up the leaves you brought in for Yule. And you're supposed to, by that, be a way to let go of things. You basically write things on leaves, and you can also use paper leaves, it says. And I'm going to use that because I had a traumatic experience last year. I'm going to try to do that ritual, actually. Casting a circle, writing about that experience on some green paper, then sweeping that up with my broom and burning those paper leaves. And it's completely out of season, but it's a nice spell to do anyway. So there's a lot of nice things there. And then there are some recipes for cakes and ale. And some of these recipes are so great. And there's some cakes in here. There's some actual cakes that does not include sugar, because I am allergic to refined sugar. And this has a lot of things that uses honey and fruits and such as the sweetening agent rather than actual sugar. So there's some cakes here that I can use. And I'm not going to just use those for the Sabbats, though I definitely think that they are nice, thematically correct for the various Sabbats. There's some of these recipes I would just make them because they look yummy. And there's very good descriptions of that. So yeah, I think that how she goes through the thematic idea of the Sabbats is very good. The activities and the various folk customs and all of that is very good. It gives very good detailed information, but without there being so much information that there's information overload. There's definitely possible to do these rituals. They're not so involved that they're impossible to do. And the elements of the rituals can be all from using an apple to count the seeds to see how many new projects you should have last year, to basically place where you play the story of the Oak King and the Holy King, and so on and so forth. It's pretty good. Now, one thing I have to say is that while the book claims that would be easy to take these rituals that are definitely intended for use with the whole coven, and adjust them into solitary use, they aren't really. Some of them you can do just fine on your own, but a lot of them are definitely meant for coven use, and it will be hard to adapt them. But I still think there's enough information in here that this book is quite usable to construct rituals of your own to celebrate the various Sabbats, even if you are like me and are solitary. And if you have a coven, this would definitely be a great book to have. So, what are some of the negative points of this book? Well, there are some crafting projects in here for things that you are supposed to make to use with the rituals. And a lot of those, the descriptions are really, really, really horrible. I mean, there's some of these things I would like to construct to use with my own rituals, and I couldn't really figure it out with the descriptions of these in this book. I have to try to Google these items and see if there are a video or another description out there somewhere so I can make them. So while this woman is great at describing rituals and great at describing cooking recipes, which she should be because it seems like her day job is making cookbooks, she's horrible at describing crafting projects. But that's a minor part of the book. Other than that, my only complaint is that it claims to be good for a solitary practitioner, but it really isn't. This is definitely for coven work. But of course, you can use a lot of the various rituals on your own, and it gives you a lot of ideas for what the various seasonal holidays are about, which is a good thing. So yeah, I really, really, really enjoyed this book. I'm so glad I picked it up, and I got it dirt cheap too, but yeah, I would pick this up at full price. I'll give it 9 out of 10. It's a really good book about the Wiccan Wheel of the Year. And while she doesn't claim that this book is in any way, shape, or form meant to be traditional Wicca, she is trained by a traditional Wiccan. She's trained by an Alexandrian. So she has traditional training, which do show up in her writing. So yeah, I think that this is definitely one of my recommendations for a core book when it comes to a new Wiccan. It's awesome. I really like it, and you can also learn a lot about it if you have been practicing for quite some time. It's a really, really good book, and it comes with my warmest recommendations, and that is my review of The Veil of the Wiccan Year by Gail Duff, and it's made by, what is this? Rider Books. It's the one that has published it. So yes, be aware though that she's English, so a lot of these folk customs are based around England and not the United States, or anywhere else for that matter. So there's that. So yeah, that is my review. I hope you have enjoyed this video. Have a great day, and blessed be.